Welcome back, everyone. If there's one thing we know about the beautiful game of basketball, it is that it has an unparalleled ability to lift us to the absolute highest peaks of euphoria, only to drop us into the deepest, most crushing valleys of heartbreak in a matter of seconds. We watch this sport, we breathe this sport, and we invest our entire emotional well-being into these 40 minutes on hardwood because of the sheer, unpredictable drama it provides. But sometimes 40 minutes is not enough. Sometimes the basketball gods demand more. They demand 45 minutes. And in the most grueling, emotionally taxing, and unforgettable scenarios, they demand 50 minutes of pure, unadulterated, heart-stopping warfare. That is exactly what we witnessed on Friday afternoon, July 3rd, 2026, at the Spark Arena in Auckland, a game that will be etched into the memories of every single Filipino basketball fan, a game that defined the true meaning of the word resilience, and a game that ultimately ended in what we can only describe as the most devastating, agonizing form of sad heroics. Today, we are diving deep, incredibly deep, into the FIBA Basketball World Cup 2027 Asian Qualifiers Window 3 clash between Gilas Pilipinas and the New Zealand Tall Blacks. The final score, New Zealand 106, Gilas Pilipinas 102. Double overtime. Read that again, let it sink in, and try to process the absolute magnitude of what transpired on that court. This was not just a basketball game. This was a testament to the human spirit, a showcase of tactical brilliance, and a stage for individual greatness that was ultimately overshadowed by a collective heartbreak. And at the center of this absolute hurricane of emotions was one man, Juan Gomez de Liano. When you hear the phrase sad heroics, it almost sounds like an oxymoron. How can heroics, the very act of saving the day, be sad? But in the context of sports, we know exactly what it means. It means a player putting his entire country on his back. It means hitting the shots that children dream about hitting while counting down the imaginary clock in their driveways. It means staring down defeat and saying not today, not once, but multiple times against a heavily favored, physically imposing opponent in their own hostile territory. Juan Gomez de Liano did all of that. He delivered a performance of such magnitude, such clutch brilliance, that under any normal circumstances, we would be building statues of him right now. He hit the game-tying three-pointer with just 11.9 seconds left in regulation to send the game into the first overtime. And then, as if that was not enough, he hit another heavily contested, absolutely miraculous go-ahead three-pointer with 8.3 seconds left in the first overtime that had the entire Philippine nation jumping out of their seats. He was a hero we needed, the hero we begged for, and for fleeting, beautiful moments, the hero who had won us the game. But the cruel reality of the scoreboard tells a different story. Thus, sad heroics. His legendary performance was ultimately left standing in the ashes of a double overtime defeat. But to truly understand this game, we have to understand the context, the environment, and the stakes. The Spark Arena in Auckland is not an easy place to play. New Zealand is a powerhouse in the FIBA Asia-Oceania region. They are big, they are physical, they are disciplined, and they run their offensive sets with a clinical, almost robotic precision. The Tall Blacks pride themselves on wearing down their opponents, using their size and strength to dominate the glass and control the tempo. Going into this matchup, Gilas Pilipinas knew they were walking into a lion's den. But here's the beautiful thing about Philippine basketball. No matter where Gilas plays in the world, they never truly play an away game. The Filipino community in Auckland came out in droves. They packed the stands. They brought their flags. They brought their voices. And they created an atmosphere that rivaled any home game at the Smart Araneta Coliseum or the Mall of Asia Arena. The roar of the crowd every time Gilas made a run, the deafening cheers during those clutch moments. It was a testament to the global reach of our love for basketball. The players felt it. Coach Tim Cohn felt it. And for 50 grueling minutes, they played their hearts out to honor that unwavering support. This was a game of drastic ebbs and flows. It was a game where Gilas Pilipinas found themselves staring into the abyss early on, trailing by multiple possessions. In international basketball, a deficit against a team like New Zealand can often be a death sentence. The Tall Blacks are notoriously good at front-running. Once they get a lead, they milk the clock. They pound the ball inside to players like Sam Menenga and Sam Vardenberg, and they suffocate you with their half-court defense. But this iteration of Gilas Pilipinas, under the masterful guidance of Coach Tim Cone, is built differently. They do not panic. They do not fracture when the pressure mounts. They chipped away, slowly, methodically, relying on the sheer willpower of the young guns like Carl Tamayo and Kevin Kiambao to keep the ship afloat when the waters got rough. And then there was a glaring anomaly of this game. The elephant in the room that we have to address right from the jump, Justin Brownlee, the man who has saved Gilas Pilipinas more times than we can count. The naturalized superstar who has hit some of the most iconic shots in Philippine basketball history. Brownlee was completely, utterly neutralized for the vast majority of this game. He was hounded relentlessly by Carlin Davison. He struggled to find his rhythm, attempting only 3 shots in the field in the entire game, and finished with just 5 points. Let that sink in. Justin Brownlee, the primary offensive engine of Gilas, had 5 points in a double overtime thriller. And yet, despite this monumental handicap, despite playing virtually 4-on-5 on the offensive end in terms of scoring output from their usual talisman, Gilas Pilipinas was literally seconds away from winning this game twice. That fact alone speaks volumes about the depth, the character, and the evolution of the local players on this roster. It proved that Gilas is no longer just Justin Brownlee and the others. The locals have arrived. They are ready to take the mantle. But the pain of this loss is sharp precisely because victory was so incredibly close. Coach Tim Cone summed it up perfectly in the post-game press conference. He said, and I quote the sentiment exactly, that the fact that we got to as close as we did obviously is a huge disappointment. Once you feel like it's in your grasp and let it slip away, it makes it tough. And that is the crux of the matter. We had it. We had the game in regulation. We had the game in the first overtime. And we even had a 4-point lead, 196, deep into the second overtime after Justin Brownlee finally broke through and hit his lone 3-pointer of the game. It felt like destiny. It felt like the basketball gods were finally rewarding the relentless hustle and the sheer refusal to die. So what happened? How did a 100-96 lead evaporate? How did the heroism of Juan Gomez de Liano get relegated to a footnote in a heartbreaking loss? How did the tall blacks manage to survive the onslaught of the Filipino spirit? We're going to break down every single crucial possession. We're going to analyze the defensive lapses, the offensive executions, the questionable decisions, and the tragic turnovers that ultimately sealed Gilas Pilipinas' fate. We will look at the tactical chess match between Tim Cone and the New Zealand coaching staff. We will examine how Ruben Terengi and Shea Ely managed to systematically dismantle our defense when it mattered most. We will dissect the final, chaotic sequence of the second overtime, where a stolen inbound pass and an unsportsmanlike foul served as the final nails in the coffin. This is not just a recap. This is a comprehensive, granular analysis of one of the greatest, most painful, and most extraordinary games in recent Gilas Pilipinas history. We are going to leave no stone unturned. We're going to celebrate the brilliance. We're going to critique the mistakes. And we are going to understand exactly what this means for the Philippines' journey in the FIBA World Cup 2027 Asian qualifiers. So, grab a drink, get comfortable, and prepare yourself, because we are about to go into double overtime once again. Let's break down the madness, the magic, and the tragic end of Gilas Pilipinas versus New Zealand. To truly dissect this 50-minute marathon, we have to start from the opening tip and analyze the tactical warfare that unfolded. New Zealand came out with a clear, deliberate game plan. Use their size, disrupt the passing lanes, and aggressively attack the paint while putting a defensive straitjacket on Justin Brownlee. And for the first half of the game, their strategy worked to absolute perfection. Carlin Davison was assigned the Herculean task of shadowing Brownlee, and he executed it flawlessly, denying him touches and making every single movement a physical chore. The offensive sets for Gilas were initially stagnant. The ball wasn't moving with the usual fluidity we expect from a Tim Cone orchestrated triangle-infused offense. New Zealand capitalized on this vulnerability. The tall blacks built a formidable lead, leaning heavily on the inside-outside presence of Sam Vardenberg, who would finish with a double-double of 16 points and 10 rebounds, and the sharp shooting of Ruben Terengi, who tormented the perimeter defenders all night on his way to a game-high 22 points. In a hostile environment, With your best player completely neutralized and the opposing team hitting their outside shots in front of a roaring home crowd, a lot of teams would have folded. They would have accepted that it just wasn't their night, packed it in, and looked ahead to the next game in Australia. But that is not the DNA of this Gilas squad. The fight back began with the young front court. Carl Tamayo stepped up in a massive way right when Gilas needed a lifeline. Tamayo was fearless inside, battling against the much bigger New Zealand bigs, securing offensive rebounds and finishing through heavy contact. He poured in 11 of his 17 points in the first half alone, acting as the primary offensive anchor to keep Gilas within striking distance going into the locker room. And then there was Kevin Kiambao. Playing with maturity that betrays his years, Kiambao showcases immense versatility, hitting threes, putting the ball on the floor, and acting as a secondary playmaker. He would ultimately finish the game shooting an incredibly efficient 9 for 16 from the field for 23 points. When the third quarter commenced, the momentum slowly started to shift. Dwight Ramos, the quintessential steady hand for Gilas, started hitting crucial floaters and timely three-pointers, compiling 18 tough points and proving once again why he is the unbreakable spine of the national team. But the real turning point, the moment where the entire geometry of the game changed, came in the fourth quarter. It turned into an absolute dogfight. Every possession was a grind. Gilas managed to take the driver's seat momentarily when R.J. Abarianos completed free throws from the line, and Juan Gomez de Leon hit a massive three to give Gilas a 63-60 edge. The Filipino crowd went absolutely berserk. But New Zealand, to their credit, did not panic. They responded with a devastating 11-2 run, putting Gilas back against the wall. Let us fast forward to the dying moments of regulation. New Zealand holding an 83-80 lead. Only 11.9 seconds remaining on the clock. The tension is so thick, you could cut it with a knife. Gilas has the ball. Everyone in the building knows they need a 3 to tie. The Tall Blacks' defense is locked in, switching everything on the perimeter, denying any clean looks. The ball finds its way to Juan Gomez de Leon. He is heavily guarded. The pressure is astronomical. A miss means the game is over, and the heartbreaking road trip continues. He rises, he fires, and boom, nothing but net. 83 all. Absolute bedlam in the arena. He had just hit one of the most cold-blooded, clutch shots in recent memory. But the drama of regulation was not over. New Zealand ran a desperate final play. Jordan Nadai tipped the ball in, and for a split second, it looked like the Tall Blacks had broken Filipino hearts at the buzzer. The referees immediately went to the monitor. The video review was agonizingly long, but the ruling was clear. The ball was still on Gatai's fingertips when the red light illuminated. The basket was waved off. We were heading to overtime. The first overtime begins, and it is a continuation of the absolute war we just witnessed. Both teams are visibly exhausted. The legs are heavy. The defensive rotations are a step slow, and it becomes a battle of pure willpower. And then, with the clock winding down in the first overtime, the stage is set once again. Gilas is down 91-90. They need a basket. 8.3 seconds left. Gomez de Leon gets the ball. He creates a sliver of space and launches another absolute missile from beyond the arc swish. 93-91. Gilas leads. The crowd explodes. He had done it again. He had hit the supposed go-ahead game-winning 3. The heroics were complete. The narrative was written. But this game was a cruel, unforgiving beast. On the ensuing possession, New Zealand pushes the ball frantically. A defensive breakdown occurs. A foul is called on Gilas, sending Shea Ely, the veteran guard for the Tall Blacks, to the line. The pressure on him is immense, but Ely is ice cold. He sinks the first. He sinks the second. 93 all. Gilas cannot convert on a final heave. Double overtime. Now, let's talk about the physical and psychological toll of a second overtime. You have already played 45 minutes of high-intensity, high-stakes international basketball. This is where execution and discipline matter more than anything else. In the second overtime, Gilas Pilipinas amazingly found a sudden reserve of energy. And incredibly, it was Justin Brownlee who finally made his presence felt on the offensive end. After being held scoreless from the field for virtually the entire game, Brownlee hits a massive, booming three-pointer. It was his only field goal tonight, bringing his total to 5 points, but gave Gilas a 100-96 lead with just over 2 minutes remaining. You can taste the victory. You can feel the monumental upset brewing. But then the execution fractured. Fatigue leads to mistakes, and mistakes at this level are ruthlessly punished. Ruben Te-Ringi, Carlin Davison, and Sam Menenga mounted a furious rally. Menenga, using his superior size against a completely drained Gilas frontcourt, scores back-to-back clutch baskets, erasing the lead. Kevin Kiambao and Menenga exchange blows late, bringing the score to 104-102 in favor of New Zealand with seconds remaining on the clock. Gilas regains possession. This is it. Do or die. They try to inbound the ball. The pressure from the Tall Blacks is suffocating. Juan Gomez de Leano and Justin Brownlee struggle with the exchange, and Carlin Davison, the man who haunted Brownlee all night defensively, jumps the passing lane and steals the ball. It is a catastrophic turnover. Davison pushes the ball and Justin Brownlee, in a desperate attempt to stop the easy transition basket, commits a hard, unsportsmanlike foul on Jordan Ngatai. That was the final nail in the coffin. Ngatai splits the free throws, but because of the unsportsmanlike nature of the foul, New Zealand retains possession. They inbound the ball. Gomez de Leano is forced to commit a duty foul, and the Tall Blacks hit their free throws to ice the game. 106-102. The final buzzer sounds. The Spark Arena erupts, half in celebration, half in stunned silence. The Gilas players collapse on the court, absolutely drained, staring blankly at the ceiling. They had given everything. They had played 50 minutes of spectacular basketball. They had survived a nightmare offensive night from their best player. They had hit impossible shots, and they had come agonizingly close to a historic road victory. But they fell short, dropping to a 2-3 record in Group A, while New Zealand improved to 3-2. So, where does Gilas Pilipinas go from here? How do you process a loss like this? In the immediate aftermath, it hurts. It feels like a punch to the gut. The players are devastated. The coaches are frustrated, and the entire nation is mourning what could have been. Coach Tim Cohn's post-game words echo the sentiment perfectly. Having chances in both regulation and the first overtime to win that basketball game, but coming up short, is a pill that is incredibly hard to swallow. There are no moral victories in professional sports, especially in the FIBA World Cup qualifiers, where every single win is crucial for securing a spot on the global stage. But when the dust settles, when the emotional sting subsides, there are massive, undeniable positives to take away from this performance in Auckland. Gilas Pilipinas prove that they can go toe-to-toe with one of the most physical, disciplined teams in the world, in their own building, and push them to their absolute breaking point. They prove that this team has a resilience that we have rarely seen in the past. To go down early, with your superstar naturalized player effectively erased from the offensive game plan, and to still battle back, take the lead, and force 2 overtimes, that requires a special kind of mental fortitude. This game was a definitive coming-out party for the local stars on the international stage. Juan Gomez de Leano cemented his status as a legitimate clutch performer. Those shots he hit will forever be etched in Gilas lore. Finishing with 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists, he carried the offensive burden when it mattered most. Kevin Kiambao and Carl Tamayo demonstrated that they are not just future prospects. They are foundational pieces capable of dominating against elite international competition right now. And Dwight Ramos proved once again that he is the indispensable glue guy. The fact that Gilas nearly pulled off this monumental upset with Justin Brownlee, taking only 3 shots all game, is a massive silver lining. It means the system is working. It means the local talent pool is deep, capable, and ready for the brightest lights. However, the schedule offers absolutely no mercy. The FIBA qualifiers wait for no one. Gilas Pilipinas does not have time to sit and lick their wounds. They have to immediately pack their bags, board plane, and prepare for an even tougher challenge. Just 3 days from now, on Monday, July 6, 2026, they face the juggernaut that is the Australia Boomers at the RAC Arena in Perth. Australia is a top-tier global powerhouse, undefeated at 4-0 in the group, and Gilas will be looking to avenge the tough loss they suffered against the Boomers in Manila during the previous window. If playing New Zealand was a physical battle, Playing Australia in their own backyard is going to be an all-out war. The biggest question facing Coach Tim Cone right now is physical and mental recovery. How do you rehabilitate a squad that just played 50 minutes of agonizing basketball? How do you flush the heartbreak out of their system and get them refocused on the Boomers? They will need to adjust their offensive schemes to ensure Justin Brownlee can find his spots against opposing defenses that will undoubtedly try to copy Carlin Davison's blueprint. They cannot afford another offensive outage from their main man against a team of Australia's caliber. They have to clean up the late-game defensive execution and secure the defensive rebounds that cost them dearly in the second overtime. This double overtime thriller against New Zealand will go down in history. It will be remembered for the deafening roars of the Filipino crowd in Auckland. It will be remembered for the sheer exhaustion etched on the players' faces. But most of all, it will be remembered for the sad heroics of Juan Gomez de Leano and the fearless stand of the young Gilas squad. He gave us a glimpse of magic. He showed us that the impossible was within reach. And even though they fell short, this Gilas Pilipinas team earned the ultimate respect of every basketball fan watching around the world. They left their blood, sweat, and tears on that hardwood in Spark Arena. Now, I want to hear from all of you. What did you think of this absolute roller coaster of a game? Did Tim Cone make the right adjustments down the stretch? What happened to Justin Brownlee? And how does he bounce back against Australia? And where do Juan Gomez de Leano's clutch shots rank in the history of Philippine basketball? Drop your thoughts, your frustrations, and your deep analysis in the comments section below. Let's get a massive discussion going, because there is so much to unpack from this 50-minute war. If you appreciate these incredibly detailed, deep-dive breakdowns of Gilas Pilipinas and international basketball, please make sure to hit that like button. It really helps push the video out to more passionate fans across the globe. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an analysis, especially with the monumental game against Australia coming up next. We will be right here, breaking down every play, every adjustment, and every single moment of the action. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, analyzing the heartbreak, the heroics, and the sheer beauty of Gilas Pilipinas basketball. Keep your heads up, Pilipinas. The journey to the 2027 FIBA World Cup is a marathon, not a sprint, and this team showed exactly what kind of heart they possess. Until next time, take care, stay passionate, and I will see you in the next breakdown. Laban Pilipinas.